Chair, and thank you for appearing today. In terms of clean energy technology development, what is the proposed solution from the government to safely dispose of the heavy metal component of degraded solar cells?
Senator, there is some work underway through ARENA to look at end-of-life issues for solar cells, but to give you a specific answer right now, I'd have to take that on notice.
Okay, thank you. So some work is underway with ARENA, end of life. How expensive, I guess you probably can't answer this question, how expensive will this process be and what amount has been budgeted for this task?
Yeah, Senator, I don't think there aren't answers for those questions, and certainly from a Commonwealth perspective there isn't a budget allocated to that activity.
Who will be responsible for implementing this policy once it's developed?
So I think there's waste disposal issues, so they'll be governed more by state legislation than Commonwealth legislation.
So we'll have some Commonwealth legislation over it?
No, Senator, no. I was saying that it's
I'm just trying to clarify.
A state issue.
Okay, it's a state issue. So is it likely to be privatised? Or will it be the responsibility of the individual solar complexes owners?
Look, I really don't think we have answers to those questions, Senator. I think the research that ARENA is doing will provide some light onto whether or not there are issues that need to be dealt with, and then if there are, there will be policy responses developed by the relevant level of government. If there are issues? Yeah,
so we don't know if there are issues yet?
I can't say myself that I'm aware of how significant those issues are, so research is underway.
Senator, to assist you further, we'll take the rest of that on notice, that question.
Thank you. Will these costs be factored into the massively high government subsidies that are the only way to fudge the actual costs of solar to the community who've been duped into thinking that solar is a cheap source of electricity?
So we'll take that on notice, Senator.
Thank you. Isn't it true that if the subsidies were removed from solar, they would not be viable because solar in reality is much more expensive than coal, which is still the cheapest form of energy apart from hydro?
On notice, Senator.
On notice. Given that we know that within 10 years or less, the Australian landscape will be littered with hundreds of thousands of dead, toxic solar cells, what is the plan? You don't know the plan yet.
Well,
ARENA.
we'd take
ARENA
on
may be
notice
coming up with
to do that properly for you, Senator.
Thank you. Is it the government's intention to create a new industry of solar cell disposal? Same again?
Senator, we'll take that on notice.
Okay. When will this government, Minister, when will this government stop pandering to the Greens on this issue when it works out against Australians who now are forced to pay the most expensive electricity bills in the Western world because of the government subsidies paid for solar and wind generation?
Well, I don't accept the premise of your question, Senator Roberts. I mean, if you look at the record under this government when it comes to energy prices, for instance, we saw quarter on quarter, month on month energy reductions in costs in energy prices. So we
Did that have anything to do with COVID?
We take that very seriously. No, that predates COVID, and we can go to some of the detail of that if you'd like. But we have had a very strong focus on reducing emissions. That's why we don't support things on reducing prices and reducing emissions at the same time. And that's why we don't support things like carbon taxes. We have pursued approaches that support reliability, ensure, yes, renewables are a very important part of the mix. I know that there will be disagreement between the government and yourself, Minister Roberts, Senator Roberts, on that, but if you look at where renewable energy is affordable, of course, that's a great part of the energy mix. It's doing an environmental job and it's also contributing to the overall price points. But we know that there are challenges with that. That's why you need backup. That's why you need, for instance, gas-fired power as backup to renewables. And so the mix of energy is important. We take that very seriously. But no, I certainly don't accept the premise of your question.
Do you think, Minister, it's responsible for a government to embark on policies, as they did with the Howard Anderson government in 1996, to introduce the renewable energy target to drive renewables, and yet had no plan for how we would deal with the legacies of these solar panels and wind turbines?
Well, look, it's probably difficult for me to
This
comment.
is now, excuse me, this is now 25 years.
But it's probably difficult for me to comment on sort of the policy process in 1996 and sort of in that government. So I probably can't add too much.
Well, given that we are now aware of this issue, and we've been saying this for years now, given that we're now aware of this issue, let's forget 1996 and let's look at what your government is doing with regard to this issue now. It's right on us. We're going to have these toxic panels all over the country.
Well, look, as Ms Evans has said, I think some of those questions have been taken on notice, and obviously we will provide you with some further detail if we can.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks, Senator Roberts. Who would like the